knows the organization already. So my name is Rajan Bhattacharyya. I've also interacted with a number of you over email. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I hope all of you got to grab some breakfast and coffee. So just to give you an idea of where you are, because I bet a number of you have not heard of this, this place. This is HRL Labs, or formerly Hughes Research Labs, originally part of the Hughes Aircraft Company, the aerospace company. We're an R&D organization. We're an LLC that's owned by two corporations, General Motors and Boeing. And so what we do research projects. GM or Boeing can come to us. They have a research problem. We'll do a project for them. But really about 70% of our work is in government R&D contracts. And in that work, we often actually collaborate with different university and other companies. And some of our collaborators are actually here. At this location, we have 4 different labs: information and system sciences, microelectronics, so we have wafer fabrication facilities actually downstairs here, applied electromagnetics, and sensors and materials. What you guys are all here for is a workshop which is within a center inside the information and system sciences lab. So what we do here at HRL mainly is research and development. Our products are really patents and publications. We don't really produce any product or sell it in the marketplace. We'll come up with a research prototype in the course of research and then work with a commercialization entity, another company who can actually take it to market. And on the lower right are just some of the government entities that we work with. This is a timeline that's a little bit older. We have a nice, large, refreshed one that our media services made in the hallway. I can show you later. But we were established in 1948 by Hughes, Howard Hughes. And these are some of the touchstone technologies that we worked on here, starting with the atomic clock and technology for holography that made use of the laser. So you might not have seen it because you walked into this building, but this is an IEEE World Heritage Site because the world's first laser was actually developed in the other building. We worked on the self-aligned gate MOSFET, which was a foundational technology for fabrication of VLSI. Liquid crystal displays, ion propulsion for how satellites and other vehicles move in space. I was mentioning in our microelectronics lab, we have wafer fabrication facilities here, and we're focused on a particular area of microelectronics, and that has to do with materials that are really good at producing very fast circuits and transistors. So we have some world records for the speed of these switching circuits, and they're utilized often in communications. They use kind of materials that most semiconductor companies don't use, gallium nitride and gallium arsenide. In our sensors and materials lab, there's a lot of work on different types of new materials and actually how to use them to construct structures that people may design in a customized way. So this is a picture from, I think it was Science, where we utilized our laser technology to actually polymerize or change the properties of a liquid polymer to make a honeycomb-like lattice structure. And the interesting part about this is it's obviously very, very light, yet it's a structural material that you can customize in interesting ways. So there are a number of applications for that, but you could imagine anywhere where you want to build flexible yet strong structures. In 2006, we have the establishment of our current LLC partnership, GM and Boeing, as I mentioned earlier. And then in the later 2000s, we have work in various areas that relates to quantum computing, as well as some of the cognitive and neural technologies that we're going to be looking at today. As I was mentioning earlier, this is Pasteur's quadrant, where we have pure basic research, and purely applied research, and we kind of sit somewhere in between. We look to perform research which is use-inspired, but yet has elements of a quest for fundamental understanding in it. And we take that and apply it in different applications. Just an example of some of the universities that, sampling of the universities that we worked with across the company. We have various lab facilities. As you can tell, we do a lot of different type of R&D work here. So there are many different types of lab spaces. A lot of it is devoted to our clean rooms and the microelectronics technologies, some of which we provide special components for fighter jets and stuff for the government. We're a trusted foundry, so some of our manufacturing the government actually utilizes. We have some top secret facilities. What I don't have a picture of here, what you guys are probably interested in, is some of our facilities related to computing, as well as laboratory space related to neurophysiology and human experiments. So actually, just a couple doors down, we have a facility where we have a driving simulator as well as a flight simulator, and in those setups, we've done some work acquiring EEG data concurrently with FNIRS and doing neurostimulation, and some of the folks involved with that are here. In the Information and System Sciences Lab, we have 3 general focus areas, one that relates to taking heterogeneous sources of data and building network representations or graphs from them, and computing on graphs to produce inferences or predictions about what's to come. In the area of brain-machine intelligence, we work on neuromorphic computing, models, both neural network models with high neural fidelity, cognitive models such as production systems, and biomechanical models, neuromuscular models of the body. And we also apply that into human-machine interaction. And finally, we have a competency in cybersecurity related to wireless network defense, secure cloud computing, and the formal verification or automated verification of software. So you're here for the very first workshop for our Center for Human-Machine Cognition. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Our goal in the center is to understand how humans process information and really interact with the environment to develop smarter autonomous systems, enhance human performance, and develop novel processing systems. And so on the right side are some of the application areas that we actually apply different technologies to. So training and decision support systems, driver assistance, as you can tell, General Motors is very interested in this. Brain-in-the-loop systems. An interesting example of that is when in the DoD domain, or the military domain, we've worked on a project from DARPA, which involved being able to quickly identify targets in the scene. This is some work actually we did with Laurent a while back.
I think that's where the data I'm presenting might come from.
Oh, really? Okay.
That, yeah, like when I realized why was I doing 3D like invariant representation to drone slides.
Well, it comes full circle, because when I first started here 10 years ago, I was on that project. And so it's an interesting coupling. Just one example of a project is an interesting coupling between human and machine, where first we took inspiration from how the ventral pathway in vision actually processes images, and we modeled that in convolutional networks to basically give us a signal for attention based on both form and some motion signals. That provided a first cue of areas that were of interest. It might, for instance, pick out all the humans in this scene. The next was to actually present that to a human in a rapid serial visual presentation paradigm. Basically, a subject was very quickly shown these possible targets. And when they saw something interesting, there's a ubiquitous ERP, event-related potential in the brain, called the P300, that gets evoked when people often see something that's of interest to them. And so we, on the other side, collected this EEG, processed it, in real time in order to quickly find which of those targets that we showed the human were of interest, and they could review it later. So that's kind of an example of, of the flavor of research that we mean by human-machine cognition. So roughly in 3 areas that we work on here: computational neural modeling. So there's been some work in projects that involve building very specific models, for instance, of hippocampus or different cortical regions related to memory or the prefrontal cortex. There have been models that kind of span the range of description that people use, so spiking neural network models, rate-coded models, all the way up to Bayesian models. Work on brain-based computing. In the area of machine-augmented intelligence, some of what you're going to hear about today from a number of the speakers and work that we've done here relates to EEG, EMG, FNIRS, fMRI processing, and being able to produce better mechanisms or computational algorithms to decode those signals, and eventually applying them to brain-machine interfaces. And an important part of basically augmenting human performance in the loop is doing neurostimulation in an efficient and specific way to enhance training. And finally, we have some work that started with government funding in the area of neuromorphic computing. That's literally building a neuromorphic chip in silicon with silicon spiking neurons. And related to that is our research interest in algorithms, not just related to spiking, but generally speaking, how the brain actually learns to process information, and being able to take that understanding and apply it to technologies like deep learning, as well as back into neuromorphic computing with hardware. So with that, again, I'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming. We have a really busy day of talks to start with, and I'd like to introduce Nantya Suthana. Nantya is an assistant professor of psychiatry, neurosurgery, and psychology at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. She completed her bachelor's, PhD, and postdoctoral fellowship at UCLA before joining the faculty